Hello, my name is Angela Sullivan. I am a yoga teacher at Ascend Physical Therapy. I have been teaching yoga for 27 years. I started teaching yoga in 1990. Was I thinking about that? 1990. But I initially began the yoga practice to heal my own body. I began as a dancer in 1968. I've studied ballet up into my mid-20s. And when I was introduced to yoga, I found a way of healing my body. The body had been misaligned and rather abused by dancing. So I started the practice of yoga, and it was like meeting an old friend. I felt like my body knew the practice. So I began the practice, and there was no teachers. I had to travel throughout the world, starting this practice, meeting my teachers in far locales, which was awesome. And then I brought it home and worked on my studies. It was through my practice in my community that people started to ask me to teach. And I wasn't training to become a teacher, I was training for myself. But I was convinced that if I could at least share some of this information and connect to somebody, just one person, that it would be worth the effort. And really, right away, I just discovered a great love for the practice. So I sort of feel like I didn't choose to teach yoga. It was more like people chose me to teach them yoga. And then the practice itself just resonated so deeply with my own heart and my own body. Hatha yoga is an ancient practice. It integrates the body, the mind, and the spirit. When we are in the class environment, we work on asanas and postures to develop strength and flexibility in the body, which leads to a more balanced body energetically. In the practice of the asana, we attend to the moment and the experiences and sensations of the body in this moment. This creates concentration and mindfulness of the body. From there, we start to understand how our minds work. We start to see the process of thought, see emotion, and that starts to become a doorway into understanding sort of our motivations and then aspects of our emotional body that blocks us, that closes us down to the greater experience of this world, our relationships, and just of this actual moment of existence, which is where we live in this moment here. When we bring all this together in a class environment, we're bringing several people together. In my classes, often there's maybe 15 to 20 people. And we come together in a community with the same intention of looking a little bit deeper, not only at the body and how we move, but in our hearts and how we feel, in our minds, how we think. In this process, we start to discover who we actually are at our deepest level. When we find out that, when we can really connect to our heart in the deepest way, nothing covering it, to live with this good heart, then when we leave the mat, when we leave the classroom, we go out into our community open, responsive, unafraid, present, and then we start to understand compassion. We understand that we all suffer. At the level of being human, we are all the same. As the Dalai Lama said, there are 7 billion people, but there's just one human. And we all want the same thing. We want to be happy, we want to be healthy, we want to be safe, we want that for ourselves, and we want that for our families. In this practice, we start to develop the compassion for others. This extends, we actually practice compassion for ourselves first and foremost, because it's challenging. Yoga is asking us to look at ourselves in our postures and in our daily lives and to address the things that are challenging, to learn how to sit with challenge, how to be responsive rather than reactive. And when we learn how to do that on the mat, in a basic posture, then we learn how to do that in the world. We can be in a challenging or confrontational situation with another human, and we can actually sit with what's arising emotionally and in our body, and we can breathe with it and be responsive to that other person, to be open to maybe their emotions, their reactivity. And somehow we can start the conversation. We can start to meet at the level of heart, there can be open communication, and that's what changes the world. It starts. So how does the practice of yoga, one person on their back, day after day, feeling in their body, paying attention to their heart and mind, how can that change the world? I believe that we have to change our hearts and our minds in order to change the world around us. As I become more open to the experience of my life, my heart, my spirit, then I can start to extrapolate out a little bit to how I impact the people in my life, in my family, my friends, how I impact my community as a volunteer, as somebody who just wants to practice generosity day in and day out, to understand the value of generosity, and then to understand how I impact the environment through the choices I make as far as taking care of my body, as far as the food I eat and the water I drink, the car I drive. How do I impact the world? Everything comes full circle. We are the microcosm in the macrocosm. And a deeper understanding of this vessel through my practice has enabled me to become a much more committed community member, a bigger volunteer for sure, and definitely a more compassionate and heartful person just overall. I teach primarily Addison Physical Therapy. We have a beautiful studio. All the classes are drop-in. I have multiple level classes for very beginning all the way up to more experienced practitioners. I like to think my instruction is really detailed and informational. All information about my classes is on ascentphysicaltherapy.com. Just search for the yoga page. Thank you.